Guys, we need to talk. The Destiny 2 community is furious right now on Lightfall. There is so many backlash on a lot of the aspects that Lightfall brought into Destiny, and I really want to talk about it. Now, last season we had a lot of backlash in terms of Season of the Seraph, and Bungie responded literally like a day later talking about the seasonal model future. And as seasons are likely going to get better to what I believe, there has been so much backlash, and yet Bungie has not responded to anything. And I know it's only about 36, almost 48 hours into Lightfall. It's really concerning to me, as a lot of what Lightfall had to offer had been just responded in so much negativity. Now, there has been now reviews being you're going to probably start to see reviews on YouTube, and those reviews are going to be a bit more, let's just say, harsh than Witch Queen. And now there's a lot of people saying Witch Queen was just so much better than Lightfall. The way of how the story was just put into place, and I talked about this in my Ending Explain Really video, was just bad. The story was just more focused on Strand. It wasn't focused on the major threads of the witness or the traveler. There was no twists or turns. There was nothing huge with anything, really. If you went into Witch Queen and you played the 8 missions, by the time you got halfway through, there has been so many revelations, so many turning points, so many like driving factors of what happened that you've been fighting for in this game as a guardian. It has just been, announced to you, and you would have been like, oh my gosh, and you would have been like out of your chair, basically. We have not seen that in Lightfall. There has only been moments where it's like, what? And huh? The subreddit, Twitter, everywhere you go in terms of social media, you're going to see some sort of backlash. Now, don't get me wrong. There's some people that do love Lightfall, and I think that that's great. I'm not saying this expansion is as bad as like Shadowkeep, because that was a really bad expansion in my opinion. But it really comes down to being that this is the second to last expansion right before Final Shape, the building block to the Final Shape. And now, with the story just at a really low, big, like just down low in terms of how it was operated and how it was just put together, it concerns many Guardians. And again, you go and you play Lightfall campaign. I don't want to spoil too much because if you're watching this video and you haven't seen it, but I recommend go and do that before you watch this video. But it's just like, it's not complete. There's so many incomplete points and parts all over the campaign, and now it's like we're gonna have to wait a year, and it doesn't look like the seasons will really help that. And probably maybe the last season of year 6 will probably help with the Lightfall Final Shape story. But other than that, what are the other stories supposed to tell? What are the other seasons? Just side stories? What are we supposed to do? We're hoping that the raid and the post content really is like top to 11 type, like even better than Rogue story and such, to really adjust and make people's review of the game much better. But it's really just like not going well in terms of the story. Moreover, there's another thing also with the story, is that it's more focused on Strand, and there's a lot of things that Bungie developers has said about what Strand will really be as a power that we will discover on our own. And then it just looked like we were just following Nimbus and Osiris actually getting Strand, and it really just didn't come the best way. So already Strand, story wise, has been put out to be just the way that we really started with it has been bad. And then even further, the story, the campaign focused like 4 missions on Strand, basically. It just focused more on Strand. I don't want to learn a lot about Strand right now. Like, I would love to have this, all the stuff that we learned in the campaign about Strand, to be like a huge side quest that takes hours to complete after the campaign or something. This is not the campaign I was really looking for already off the spot. And just Strand in general, after you unlock it, I've heard so many complaints on the cooldowns, the even time-gated aspect fragments once you get some of the subclass, already making the class feel so poor and just half-baked in general. some of the fragments that you're going to have to go and grab for Strand, you have to wait after the raid, which is basically the end of week 2. So for like 2 weeks already, Strand is just going to be, not that great. And a lot of people have said it during the campaign when we had to use Strand, Void Arc and Solar were just more powerful at all times. Strand was not something that was really powerful. I gotta admit, when Beyond Light came out with Stasis, I felt Stasis was powerful in a lot of areas when we were playing the activities. I know we couldn't take it off, but it was something like, oh, I want to keep using Stasis. I didn't really see a lot of that with Strand. There was like 1 to 2 missions that I really loved using Strand, but I gotta admit, guys, that was it. Strand in general's gameplay is just not a good super, and it does not compete to the other classes. And that was bad. As a new Darkness subclass that we've been waiting for after the Void Arc and Solar 3.0, adjustments to those subclasses, we were hoping that Strand really is just insane. And already it looks like that's not the case. There has been so much backlash in terms of just how the weapons are and how just the place Neomuna actually worked. A lot of the trailers in Neomuna really showed us that we're going to go grappling off the skyscrapers and going and doing that, and a lot of new weapons, and the characters were going to be great. The characters has been on subreddits and Twitter, especially Nimbus as a character, has been and there's so much negativity with Nimbus, and it's crazy about its dialogue. The dialogue of the campaign has also been a major problem to many Guardians, as Nimbus, everyone's saying just like, I die of cringe as soon as Nimbus gets in the cutscene or something. So already Nimbus, one of those characters, the Cloud Striders in general, has been just rated upon to be one of those bad characters in the game, being not really developed at all. Again, there's a lot of questions that was left very unanswered, especially with Neomuna. And I have not done a lot of the post-campaign stuff, but I haven't heard anything that really, comes out really crazy. So already from that, it's bad. And another thing is how the weapons are. A lot of people have said the weapons on Neomuna are just reskinned weapons from the moon in Season of Lost. And I know that doesn't probably go up to a lot of people, but it's something that is a tweet that is growing, and it's very interesting, as we did point this out. A lot of people have pointed out back in December, and it's coming into fruition now more often, and it's really just hurting the players when it comes to the weapons. And to get back to one of our topics, Neomuna itself, it feels so empty. The enemy density is not really that crazy unless you're doing the public event, and that's a huge problem, as, again, like we just said with a lot of the other destinations, Throne World and Europa, the new destinations should be like the hardest destinations ever, with enemies all the way over the place. If I want to do patrol, I shouldn't be waiting and going over 8 areas trying to figure out where it's going to spawn in. So there's a lot of problems right now, a lot of concern with the Neomuna destination not being what it was in the trailers, not being how people were thinking of it. With Strand operating in the Crucible and other things, it hasn't been great in there as well with the cooldowns. And again, like I said, it's not like as powerful as our light subclasses, and that's also a concern. A lot of the things when it comes to strikes, as there was basically one new strike with Neomuna, and the reprised 2 strikes, the Arms Dealer and Lake of Shadows. I have heard from all of them that people have not liked the changes. I just published the Lake of Shadows strike, if you want to go look at that. I really enjoy the changes, but the subreddit and a lot of other people do not enjoy the changes in the new strike. I won't spoil it, but at one point you're really doing the public event from the Throne World, and they plugged in a lot of those aspects into the strike, which again I enjoyed. However, a lot of people don't. People miss the speed running, quick strike. People miss that type of feeling. People don't really like the Shadow Legion inside the story in the EDZ, and that's also a huge problem to many. A lot of this is coming down to really is this expansion really worth it? And the Bungie community, everyone who has been really, supporting Bungie, keeping this, really up there for Lightfall these last couple weeks, there's so much negativity. I know I keep saying it, but there's so much, and it's crazy just how it is. And I don't know if Bungie's going to respond to this at any way. I've heard from recent leaks that this expansion was not planned at all. Like, it was planned. However, when they did the final shape expansion, when they announced that this expansion would be a filler expansion where it was not going to be really focused upon that well. And a lot of people have said they should have just skipped this year in terms of an annual expansion and just added on to Crucible Strikes, Vanguard, and some like little things there, and just added so much new stuff instead of actually adding a whole new story, because now it looks bad for everyone now in terms of the playlist activities. No new Crucible maps, no new Gambit maps. Those places are now stale than ever, being in a worse spot, and now it's really just hurting a lot of people's attention when it comes to those. It's really interesting to me. The expansion that has probably gotten the most negativity, being Lightfall right now, has gotten the most players on Steam and console, as I believe we hit 320,000 yesterday with the Lightfall expansion. That exceeds almost 100,000 players over launch day of the Witch Queen. Already having way more players than the Witch Queen, but yet getting more negativity. I guess it looks like it's sort of an okay sign. Again, I don't really know. This is bad, and I feel like Bungie should address it like they did with last season, because if this is what we're going to be dealing with until 2024, until actually the final shape, a lot of people are really going to get furious, and this could hurt a lot of stuff when it comes to Destiny 2. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, then subscribe and like, and let me know your thoughts on Lightfall. I'll see you guys in the next one.